The ANZAC frigate is one of these rare examples of success in joint naval programs between two nations. Joint naval developments often do not work out nearly as well as intended. Countries approach these projects with the best of intentions, but over the long development timeframe for naval ships, different considerations inevitably test the limits of cooperation. Things like different operational requirements, naval strategies, industrial limitations, and budget constraints, to name just a few. The ANZAC, built together by Australia and New Zealand, bucks this trend. Conceived during a period of shifting alliances and aging fleets, the ANZAC was a challenging project. Built on the German MEKO 200 platform, these vessels were flexible and financially affordable within the budget constraints of the two nations. Over 3 decades of service, the ANZAC class has evolved from a lightly armed patrol frigate into a more sophisticated surface combatant. In the late 1980s, naval planners in Oceania faced a significant capability crisis. Both the Royal Australian Navy, or RAN, and the Royal New Zealand Navy, or RNZN, possessed aging fleets that were approaching the end of their useful service lives. Australia desperately needed a replacement for its fleet of River-class anti-submarine warfare frigates, which were based on the old British Leander-class design. Simultaneously, New Zealand needed to replace its own Leander-class frigates, which were becoming increasingly expensive to maintain. The solution to this dual dilemma was the ANZAC Project. This ambitious joint initiative sought a single baseline warship design that could satisfy the demands of both nations. The requirements for this replacement were stringent. First and foremost, the ships had to be affordable, both in terms of initial procurement and long-term sustainment. Secondly, political realities heavily influenced the selection process. Following the implementation of a nuclear-free zone in the South Pacific by the New Zealand government, relations between New Zealand and the United States cooled dramatically. The United States suspended its treaty obligations to New Zealand, meaning the purchase of a frontline American naval design was politically off the table. Therefore, looking towards European shipbuilders became the most logical path forward. Beyond these political constraints, the overriding goal of the project was to promote structural interoperability between Australian and New Zealand fleets, ensuring the two nations could operate seamlessly together in regional contingencies. The design selection process was competitive. 12 warship designs from various global shipbuilders were thoroughly evaluated to find the perfect balance of cost, endurance, and capability. Ultimately, the German shipbuilding firm Blohm & Voss won the competition with a variant of their MEKO 200 design. The MEKO concept, which stands for multi-purpose combination in German, was radical for its time because it's focused on modularity. Weapons, sensors, and machinery were built into self-contained modules. This means that construction could be decentralized, and future upgrades would theoretically be much easier to integrate without tearing the ship apart. While most of the work was done in Australia, for many ships, the superstructure modules were fabricated in Whangarei, New Zealand. Taking advantage of the modularity of the MEKO 200 design. Final assembly took place at the Tenex Defence Systems shipyards in Williamstown, Victoria. The construction timelines for the lead ship of the class, HMAS ANZAC, was swift for a major surface combatant. She was laid down in 1993, launched into the water in 1994, and commissioned into the Royal Australian Navy in 1996. The entire construction program ultimately delivered a total of 10 frigates. 8 vessels were built for the Royal Australian Navy, and 2 vessels were built for the Royal New Zealand Navy, for a combined total of 10 vessels. The ANZAC class is a medium-sized surface combatant. Each ship displaces roughly 3,600 tons when fully loaded. They measure 118 meters in length with a beam of 14.8 meters. Propulsion is provided by a combined diesel or gas system, commonly referred to as CODOG. This engineering setup uses a single General Electric LM2500 gas turbine for high-speed sprints, paired with 2 MTU diesel engines for economical long-distance cruising. This configuration allows the frigates to achieve a top speed of over 27 knots. More importantly, for operations in the vast Pacific Ocean, they offer a respectable range of 6,000 nautical miles when cruising at 18 knots. The standard complement is approximately 170 officers and sailors, though this number fluctuates depends on the specific mission and whether an aviation detachment is embarked. The ships feature a prominent flight deck and a hangar at the stern, capable of operating a medium helicopter. This aviation facility is essential for extending the ship's anti-submarine warfare range, conducting over-the-horizon targeting, and performing search and rescue. Today, Australia operates the MH-60R Seahawk, while New Zealand utilizes the older SH-2G Super Sea Sprite. At the bow of both the Australian and New Zealand variants sits the main armament, the Mark 45 5-inch dual-purpose gun. This 127mm weapon is a fully automated system designed for surface engagement, limited anti-aircraft fire, and crucially, naval gunfire support for ground troops ashore. It can fire 20 rounds per minute at ranges exceeding 20 kilometers. Moving past the main gun, we begin to see the primary differences between the Australian and New Zealand ships. These differences largely stem from differing national defense budgets and strategic threat perceptions. Australia viewed its frigates as combatants that would need to survive in higher threat environments, leading to more expensive armament upgrades. New Zealand, constrained by tighter budgets and operating in a comparatively benign environment, initially fitted their 2 frigates primarily for patrol and fishery protection. Consequently, the New Zealand ships originally lacked the heavier anti-ship missile suites and close-in weapon systems fitted to the Australian sister ships, relying mostly on the main gun and their embarked helicopter for their punch. When first commissioned, the baseline ANZAC design was heavily criticized by defense analysts for being severely underarmed, particularly regarding air defense. The primary anti-air weapon was a small Mark 41 vertical launching system containing just 8 cells. Initially, this system held only 8 of the original Sea Sparrow missiles, which provided a very limited magazine depth against sustained missile attacks. This critical weakness was eventually addressed on the Australian frigate by integrating the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile, or ESSM. Because the ESSM is smaller and can be quad-packed, those same 8 vertical cells can now carry 32 surface-to-air missiles. To successfully guide these new weapons, the ships require a special radar illuminator upgrade. This involved equipping the frigate with continuous wave illuminators capable of painting aerial targets, which the semi-active radar seekers on the missiles used to track and destroy incoming threats. In contrast to the Australian decision to go with the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile, the 2 New Zealand frigates opted for a different upgrade. Their Mark 41 VLS launcher and the Sea Sparrow missiles were replaced by the Sea Ceptor air defense missiles arranged in a mushroom farm style VLS of 20 cells. This is another divergence between New Zealand, which chose the Royal Navy's air defense missile upgrade, and Australia, who decided to go with American air defense. The most transformative change in the capability of the Australian ships occurred under the Anti-Ship Missile Defense Program around 2004. Modern anti-ship cruise missiles fly faster and lower than ever before, dramatically shrinking the reaction time available to a defending vessel. To counter this, the original Raytheon SPS-49 radar, which was a rotating two-dimensional air search sensor, was discarded. In its place, the ships received an indigenous Australian radar suite. This upgrade installed two active phased array radars designed by CEA Technologies, mounted on a heavily modified primary mast. This radar suite was known as the CEAFAR system. The suite includes a radar operating in the S-band for medium-range air search, and another operating in the L-band for long-range early warning and volume search. Unlike traditional rotating antennas, the phased array panels steer in all directions. They can track dozens of high-speed threats without any mechanically moving parts, instantly directing missiles to intercept them. This radar upgrade was supplemented by a new VAMPIR infrared search and track system. This optical sensor allows the frigates to passively detect the thermal signatures of incoming threats, without emitting a radar signal that could give away the ship's own position to the enemy. The ship's radars in that time would be switched off. Offensive surface warfare capabilities are currently receiving a major boost. Historically, the Australian frigates relied on the American Harpoon anti-ship missile. However, the fleet is actively upgrading to the Norwegian-designed Naval Strike Missile. The Naval Strike Missile brings a leap in lethality. It is a stealthy, sea-skimming cruise missile equipped with an advanced imaging infrared seeker. Unlike the older radar-guided Harpoon, the Naval Strike Missile has passive guidance. It can recognize specific target ship classes by matching their thermal signature to an onboard database. This allows the missile to aim for specific vulnerable areas of a target's vessel, while easily ignoring electronic warfare jamming. Despite these impressive anti-air and anti-ship upgrades, the ANZAC class possesses a glaring vulnerability in high-end naval warfare. They seriously lack modern anti-submarine warfare capability. While the ships possess standard hull-mounted sonars and can launch lightweight torpedoes, they are not equipped with towed array sonars or variable depth sonars. In modern naval warfare, detecting quiet diesel-electric submarines hidden deep in the thermal layers of the ocean requires acoustic sensors towed hundreds of meters behind the noise of the ship itself. While the original MEKO 200 design can easily accommodate a towed array system if desired, and physical space was nominally reserved for it during construction, this option was never pursued by either navy. Consequently, the ships must rely heavily on their helicopters or on escorting vessels to detect and engage submarine threats. Operationally, the ANZAC class has been the absolute workhorse of both the Australian and New Zealand navies for nearly 3 decades, boasting an extensive deployment history. They saw early operational service during the 1999 peacekeeping mission in East Timor. Australian ships have completed multiple grueling rotations to the Middle East, conducting maritime security, counter-terrorism, and anti-piracy missions in the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and the Arabian Sea. Most notably, HMAS ANZAC provided critical naval gunfire support to Royal Marines during the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The ANZAC class remains a constant presence in regional exercises like the RIMPAC. Today, the ANZAC class is entering the twilight of its lifespan. Of the 10 ships originally built, 9 remain in active service. The Australian Navy made the decision to retire the HMAS ANZAC, the lead ship of the class, in 2024. This early retirement was a move to consolidate maintenance resources across the remaining 7 Australian vessels, keeping them viable for a few more years. Meanwhile, New Zealand continues to operate its 2 frigates, having recently put them through an extensive upgrade in Canada to modernize their air defense capabilities. The rough timeframe for the complete retirement of the class across both navies stretches from the late 2020s through to the mid-2030s. Australia intends to replace its aging fleet with a combination of 2 classes. First, the much larger and heavily armed Hunter-class frigate, alongside the smaller Mogami-class purchased from Japan. New Zealand is currently evaluating its own force structure requirements to determine how it will replace its 2 ships. Until those modern replacements slide into the water, the ANZAC-class frigate will continue to hold the line, serving as a rare example of successful joint naval programs.